is failing us. So what we're going to do is for now, we'll temporarily skip the WOIS policy discussion because the author is currently not available. I will resume back to it later. So what I will do now is to call on Ernest to come and present the RPM, that is the Resource Policy Manual report. And after Ernest does that, then I'll call on Madvi to present the policy implementation report. And after those two presentations, we'll have 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for questions and comments, and then we'll then move to the next item. Thank you. So, Ernest?
Okay, welcome back everyone from the break. In the next few minutes, we'll talk about the concept of the resource policy manual, which we introduced to the community sometime last year. As a matter of fact, that was at the last AFRINIC meeting. This is going to be a quick, short one. The resource policy manual, this is not a new concept with many registries. What's happening here is that currently we have different sets of policy documents that talk about different aspects of number resource management. You have a different document that talks about the allocation of IPv4 addresses. You have a different document that talks about how to issue AS numbers. You have different sets of documents that talk about other policies like reverse delegation, different IPv6 policies, etc. So what we try to do is to have all these current policies merged into one source, and which we chose to call the Resource Policy Manual. Now, this is something that the other registries have actually done, so we're not the first to do it. ARIN already has what they call the Number Resource Policy Manual, or the NRPM. They've been using it for a while, and we observed and thought it works quite well for them and their community. I believe LACNIC have the same thing, and we thought it's something that we could also adopt. So we presented last year at the last AFRINIC meeting to members of the community that were at our last meeting. We presented to them this piece of information. So the Resource Policy Manual, it's a proposed single document that contains all number resource policy information in our region. Now, we published a draft at that link, and this draft was initially mainly done by the staff. We did not in any way change the content of the policies. So what we did is look at all these active proposals, rather active policies in all these sets of documents, copy all of them, and combine them structurally into one document. Now, we mentioned at the time that once this document has been adopted, all future changes to the document will have to reference what section of the document is being changed. However, numbering of new proposals, if any new proposals are coming up, the numbering remains the same. A new proposal adopts an ID that applies currently, but the proposal must state which section of the larger policy document it will be affecting. Now, after its adoption, or implementation, or previous policy documents will be archived on our website and easily accessible. Now, the document, again, to restate that it's a simple reformatting of existing policy documents, and there have been no changes to any particular policy content whatsoever. Now, the board were supposed to approve the final draft and then send an announcement to the community. So where are we on this? In November 2013, that was last year, we presented this idea to the community. In January 2014, we sent out a call for comments with that document. In March 2014, sorry, that's a typo, we compiled the comments received. As a matter of fact, there was one comment received and incorporated into the relevant edits. And in April, we recommended to the board to approve the final draft. And as of now, the board who is meant to have gotten back to us, I believe the board met some time back, and we're waiting for a status on this. So we hope that the board will approve that, and once that is done, the policy manual will become active, and any old policy documents that have been in place will be obsolete whatsoever. No, they won't be obsolete, but they will be archived. But the policy manual will be the official reference document for all AFRENIC policies, and all updates must go through the manual, and that's how we'll proceed from there. So once the board has approved this, we shall be sending out an announcement to the community, and the manual will become active as the official policy reference manual in our region. That was really a short piece of information for the community, and what I've shared with you here, as soon as the board does approve this, they had a meeting some time back, I think a few days back, and it was on their agenda, and we do hope to hear back from the board about their decision on this, on adopting the resource policy manual. So thank you, and that was just a short, quick piece of information on this issue. Thank you. Next, Madhvi, I think you're up with the policy implementation report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernest. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, Paulus. So when we take Madhvi's presentation, then we'll take the questions together. Thank you.
So we present today on the policy implementation experience report based on what the host masters see when we evaluate resource requests. So the first case that we'd like to present to the community is a clause in the policy AFPUB 2005 V4001, which is the IPv4 allocation policy. And the clause in there is that AFRENIC is responsible for the location of IP addresses, IP number resources, and the management of reverse domain names within the region, within its service region. The current practice is we look for legal presence in our service region, for the proof of infrastructure in operation in our region. That means the services are originating from our region. Sometimes we also ask for the proof that the services are being provided to the end users, evidence of connectivity and operation. In some cases, the license to operate from regulators are applicable. And as per the policy, we will slow start unless the justification for more IPs is done. And for additional allocations, what we've seen is sometimes a portion of the IPs being requested are for used outside the region, for POPs outside our service region, and we've approved such requests. The issues that we would like to raise up are, we have like the offshore companies, offshore meaning they usually have a global business license of the type that they can't operate in the country where they are getting the license. Okay? And then we'll have to look for where the infrastructure will be hosted. Okay? Sometimes we are told that they have a partnership regarding the infrastructure. They have equipment leases and co-location in data centers. And yeah, that's it. In some cases, the organizations request for IP resources before establishing themselves in our region. And then when we request them to give us further justification, sometimes they just tell us that we can close the ticket or they're not ready to move forward yet. Some of the services that they require IP address space from sometimes do not necessitate intensive infrastructure. And in some cases, what we've observed is that the customer base is completely or to a high percentage out of the Afrinic service region. We also have VSAT operators who have come to Afrinic to get IP resources, but the fact that they are not, they could have a legal presence in our region, but the core infrastructure is completely outside the Afrinic service region. So we're having issues in evaluating such requests, and in some cases we have had to reject the request and requested them to, if the customers are in our region and will be deploying services from our region, then the customers can actually come and get the IP addresses from us. Some statistics when we were looking at our WHOIS database. This data was taken about 2 months ago. We had roughly 4,000 prefixes that had been assigned by our LIR members to their customers, and the country that they had registered it under on the WHOIS database was outside our region. About 8% of our new member requests are usually from these offshore companies, and we can get requests as big as greater than a /12. And some of these companies also come back for more requests, for more resources, sorry. And the maximum I think that we've seen is a /12. The next issue, the next policy that we would like to raise a concern about is the same, but another clause. An LIR may receive an additional allocation when about 80% of its address space has been used in valid assignments and or sub-allocations. So we'll look at how if the assignments are registered in the WHOIS database. We also query the routing table to see if those prefixes are being routed. If not, we query our LIR members for the reason behind that. It so happens that assignments are not registered on the WHOIS database, or we see issues when, like for example, overlaps and things like that. So we use the teach and approve mechanism. We collaborate, and our members collaborate. We try to make them collaborate with us so that at least they register their assignments properly in the WHOIS database, and so that we'll be able to successfully evaluate the resource requests. What we've observed, some assignments are registered under the countries of the world, any country of the world, and when we query about those, we're told it's based on the choice of the LIR's customer. Sometimes our members are reluctant to give us more information about the assignments. They refuse to provide information regarding the IP address resource utilization, saying that they have an NDAs that they've signed with the customers and they cannot further disclose this to us. And the policy makes it clear that there is a clause in the policy that makes it clear that they need to keep records of who, why they assigning the IP addresses to, and they should be keeping the records online. The very common feature of these issues is common to the offshore applicants, usually for those who have a global business license in our region, and that the way we interpret sometimes is that they don't want to give us the information because they don't want, they may be using it out of the region, okay? We have the IP end user assignment policy, which says that an organization can get the minimum assignment of a /24 if it shows an existing efficient utilization of at least /25 from the upstream provider, or if they're requesting a prefix, if they can justify an immediate need of at least 50% of what they're requesting. We usually look for policy compliance if the needs are justified. Sometimes they will not, the IP addressing plan that we're given will not show 50% utilization or even the /25 utilization. Some of the technical people of those organizations, they still look at keeping NAT for the internet users and only really look at the number of public IPs they'll actually need for the servers in their data center. So we'll try and ask them questions about their network, how they're accessing the internet, who they're getting IP addresses from, and based on the conversation that we have with them and the documentation that we have published on regarding IP addressing plans, etc., on our website, we get them to actually come up with a proper plan of deploying the public IP addresses that they'll be getting from Afronek. But in some cases, they can't justify the real need for the /24. What we've observed is some organizations, they can qualify to get an ASN. The ASN is evaluated in a separate policy, but they can't qualify for the minimum /24 of IPv4. Their needs could be 32 IP addresses, 60 IP addresses, and they can't go beyond that. So we'll have to refuse them the IP addresses that they would need to multi-home, but that's what the policy says, so we can't go against the policy. So our end user assignment policy at the moment does not take multi-homing as a criteria for at least the minimum assignment. We also have a guideline for mergers and acquisitions, okay? This guideline was published by Afronek to guide organizations on the process when there has been a change in ownership due to a merger, sale, or takeover, or when they have ceased operation or serving as LIR. The current RS registration service practice is that we ask for more detailed information about the transfer case. It's usually not a clear-cut case most of the time. We have to check if there have been changes in ownership, etc., if the member has really stopped serving as LIR. And we have had new cases where now we have consolidation under holding company requests, so resources being transferred, resource requests for transfer from an organization to its holding company. And we usually approve the request if we can ascertain that there has been a merger, a sale or a takeover, or if the holding company has majority shareholding in the organization. So we're receiving transfer requests and that are non-merger, non-acquisitions related from one LIR to another. And we're also having change of name requests without relevant documentation as proof. So we get one organization coming to AFRINIG and say, I want my name changed from X to Y. So we say, give us the documentation that will substantiate your request. They don't have a change of name certificate. They don't have, they can't show the direct relationship between the two organizations, the two names that they want us to transfer the resources to. So then it makes us difficult to actually effect the transfer. So our questions to the committee would be, should we carry on with the current practices? We are open for questions here, or if you have suggestions, you can always post on the policy discussion mailing list, rpd@afrinic.net. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madhvi. Okay, so we've heard the two presentations. If the floor is open for the next 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for comments or questions.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. With respect to the policy manual.
Can we have the policy manual brought up to the screen, please? Yeah.
Just a concern on the expression that was put forth that it will absolute or obsolete absolutely all the policies that are listed in there. Maybe I just need to get a clarification. A document that has not gone through the PDP cannot obsolete a policy, can it? And in this case, the manual, well, I've been following the process. Has it gone through a PDP? And if not, can it really obsolete any policy?
It's just a consolidated.
Okay. Okay, I'll answer your question before Owen speaks. Paulos, it's not. I'm not quite certain that I mentioned the word obsolete. It does not in any way obsolete the other active policies. In fact, what happened is that we made that document based on the content from all active proposals, and the other proposals are just going to be archived. It's just that. From the day it takes effect, it becomes the official reference manual for all policy-related information on number resource management in our region. It does not in any way change the content. You're getting content from all those different documents and combining them into one document that is easy to refer to. And this is exactly what we said. And if I recall correctly, at the last meeting, when this subject was presented, there were questions about whether it should go through the PDP, and we shared our plan for this. We said, look, we shall post the document to the community for comments and feedback, which is what we did. And it was, I think, agreed at the time that if members of the community feel that this should actually go through the PDP, let them come out and say it. And no such comment was received. And after that, at the close of the comment period, we requested that this goes to the board for their approval, and we told the board that, look, it has gone through community feedback as mentioned at the last meeting, so it's presented hereby to you for your approval and adoption. So we are not in any way obsoleting anything or changing anything. It's just the same content has been put into one manual. Perhaps Owen might have a similar comment, since Irene uses the same sort of principle. Thank you.
Thank you. Paulos, I don't know whether that answers your question or you have further comments.
It's not word for word the same as the policies. So that's what my worry is. And it's just a concern. If it is, okay, I have looked at it from the perspective of it being a manual rather than a policy.
Oh, it's not a policy again. We do not say it's not a policy. It's really a manual of policies. You see, and would you rather it should have gone through the PDP? Maybe you might want to say that. What are your views on that? Because this is what we asked at the last meeting, and the general feeling of the community was that it should not. I think the discussion came up, and folks said no, it should not go through the PDP. So, what are your feelings on that? Because that...
Yeah, my feeling is the answer was correct. I think no, because it's a manual and not a policy.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Owen, please go ahead.
So I'm not sure, Owen DeLong, Hurricane Electric and Aaron AC, I'm not sure how you separate policy from the documents that enshrine that policy and are the official reference for the policy that then gets implemented. So I think that it is actually important that the policy manual in its initial instance go through some form of community acceptance process. The PDP seems like a perfectly valid one to me, but you know, if it went out for a comment period with the community and the community's general comment was, yeah, okay, then I think that's probably adequate also. I'm not here to tell you how to run your policy development process or policy in your region. I actually was coming up to comment more on Madhvi's presentation. I think that continuing the existing practices is in line with the policies as written, and I think that changing the existing practices without a change in policy or some sort of approval of the policy development process to do so would be out of line with the mission of AFRINEC. So yes, I think the staff should continue acting in line with the policies, and that's what the policies are there for.
Thank you very much for that critical point. And it also means that some of those issues that has been raised by Madhvi needs to be, the community needs to consider how to turn them to policies, because that is why they have actually raised the issues, and it's only by policy that they can be corrected. On the first point that you made, I think Ernest is going to comment to that.
Yes, I mean, rightly as Owen said, yes, we sent it out there to the community for comments, as had been promised at our last meeting. And after that, we, again, as promised, sent it to the board for their review and any final comments and perhaps adoption. And at this stage, this is what we're waiting for. But yes, we presented the plan to the community. They talked about it. Yes, there were some feelings that perhaps it could have gone through the PDP, but generally after the presentation, it was in agreement that no, it doesn't have to go through the PDP, send it out to the community for comments, and take it to the board right after that with feedback from the community, and that's exactly what happened. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Alan, please go ahead.
Hi, Alan Barrett. I have several comments. I'll try to keep each of them brief. Firstly, about the policy manual. I stood at the microphone 6 months ago in Côte d'Ivoire, and I argued that the policy manual should go through the PDP process. However, I saw that I was the only person making that argument, so I backed down. I think what you've done is okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and then my second comment is about Madhvi's presentation. I think it's important that the staff should continue to follow the policies as written. And if the policies as written are causing hardship for applicants, then that's a reason to change the policy. It's not a reason to unilaterally change the staff's behavior. So I did notice one case where I think a change in policy might be sensible. And Madhvi, I would suggest that if you notice patterns of applications where the applicants are having some legitimate need, but it's not catered for by policy, perhaps you could post to the community and maybe ask if there's a volunteer to write policy that would help this case. So the one example that I remember from the presentation was about end users who wish to multi-home and probably should get PI space for that, but who cannot justify /24. You know, one way is to say, sorry, the policy doesn't help you. Another way is to change the policy. And I'm not volunteering to write such a policy, but I suspect that if the problem is sufficiently widespread and if it's brought to the attention of the community, maybe someone will step up to write a proposal to address it. Thanks.
Alan, actually would have preferred if you could volunteer to write the policy. Because that's actually the problem we have. We don't have people that wants to write the policy, but we have people that wants to complain about the situation. So if you could write the policy. Good. Thank you. Thank you. We'll follow up with Owen. Okay, if there are no more comments, we'll jump right into the election phase. So I'll just do show a few slides, then I'll invite Mark, who is the chair of NOMCOM, to come and take over. Please put Mark's presentation up, then we can. Oh, by the way, that was not gentle of me. Thank you very much, Madhvi.
So, good afternoon. I'm Mark Elkins. I'm the chair of NOMCOM, chair of the election committee. And we have time for an election quickly. We were meant to have about half an hour, but never mind. So, a few slides. What is the Policy Development Working Group? Well, you've been seeing it in action for the last few hours. Anyone can take part, as everyone is. Participation normally is via the internet on the RPD mailing list, but it can be done face-to-face as has been happening this afternoon. And basically anyone that participates is therefore part of the discussion, is therefore part of the Policy Development Working Group. There are two chairs. We currently have the one chair here at the moment. Unfortunately, the other chair is not here. The chairs are chosen by you, the community. They serve a staggered 2 years, and basically this is the time at the end of the year, at the end of their session, as to when they retire and another person comes up. So nothing there. The current two chairs, well, you've seen Sion, and the other person is Emile from the Congo. And it's Emile's term that's actually terminating now. The purpose or role of the chair is to determine consensus during open policy discussions, publish the minutes of the proceedings that have happened, initiate, terminate, look at proposals, last call and things like that, and then at the end of the day send a report of the outcome of the meetings to the community and to the board of directors. We're looking at an election. So back on the 1st of May, approximately, there was the public call for nominations. About 2 weeks later, evaluation of the nominations received, candidate slate published, There was a comment period, there was an end of comment period, and I don't remember very many comments being coming forth. And then today we have an election at this face-to-face meeting. The people that we're going to be looking at are on the board. We have Meshach for Kenya. Is he here? Okay. We have Ghislaine from the Cameroon. Is that person here? Okay. We have Hagar from Sudan. Is he here? Nope. We have Didier from DRC. I haven't seen his smiling face. And we have Adam from Kenya. I believe he is here. Okay. So we have 5 people that completed everything and gave the election committee everything that we were looking for. They also comply with other things. For example, the PDP itself in the election process states that candidates need to be from our service region. The election is going to be done by a simple show of hands. We don't need to pay paper ballots. This allows us to run faster. Anyone present in the meeting can vote. It's people in the room that can vote. And that is basically the guidelines. So I'm going to move back to that page. Yes, Lou, you have a question.
I say you were expecting my question anyway. Okay, well, I have a little story to tell to the community from my self-nomination process in between, and I would put to the floor, see if it should be the process. It's a little short story. I'll keep it as short as possible. So on the first day, they called nomination in the RPD. I self-nominated myself, and I didn't receive any reply at all till they closed the nomination. Then I found myself was not on the list. I sent an email to the nomination committee and asking why I'm not on the list. They replied to me that I didn't send in my mission statement. But in the whole process of 10 days, nobody reminded me that I actually need to send the additional mission statement. And then I sent another email saying, can I send the mission statement right now? Same night, Mark's replied me saying, okay, can you send your mission statement? I did. And then Mark did not reply to me afterwards. 3 days later, we had a discussion in RPD and a complaint there. And Mark claimed he had replied me to email, which apparently he didn't. And I found him on the floor on this meeting. And Mark told me I wasn't qualified because I wasn't a resident of the continent. So there comes the question, how possible the nomination committee decided which country I'm actually resident with without confirming with me as myself. So that's basically a little complaint I have here, and I would just put it on the floor. I mean, I've been actively participating in global policy for past 7 years, and I just like to contribute to community, but I mean, I'm perfectly fine with not being a chair whatsoever, but still, I would think there's some improvement in the nomination process to be done, really. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciated. You were not listed because the information that we got from you was not complete. And then when I sat with you and discussed where you came from, although your application said that you came from the Seychelles, you did actually admit to me that you didn't actually live there most of the time. You were not actually a resident. Therefore, you weren't a resident of the African region, the service region.
Nobody confirmed with me. Nobody asked me.
Not beforehand. No, you're quite right.
Nobody.
We had already decided not to put you on the list because you hadn't completed the information.
But nobody reminded me I need to send the emission statement in for 10 days until the date closed, and I asked myself. I think the nomination committee, it's not 5,000 people nominating, it's 5 people. If somebody missing some information, humanly and common sense logical to remind the candidates that you might want sending it. I did not receive any reminder.
If you wish to appeal to the floor, the community, to have your name put on the slate, you may do so.
Thank you.
I just heard a thank you. Okay.
Yes, I want to appeal.
You would like to appear?
Yes.
Okay. Ernest, can you tell me with any of the people on the screen at the moment, apart from the last person on the list, are there any presentations, video presentations for the first 4 people? There are not. In that case, is the community happy that Lou stands?
Hi, Alan Barrett. Before I answer that question, I would like to pose a question of my own, and that is, if setting aside any technicalities of who did or didn't send or receive email, I don't care too much about that. Let's look at the substantive issues. Was he nominated? Do self-nominations count? I think they do. What other criteria are there? I think you have to be a resident of the area, so I would ask whether he is or not. I'm not going to guess, so let's hear from him whether or not he is a resident. And you know, if there are any other criteria, please could you remind us what they are? Thanks.
The criteria is to complete all the information and to be a resident within the service area of Afrinic. Lou, would you like to take the microphone?
First of all, the whole appeal is, the whole thing I put on the floor is I'm not happy with the nomination process. Yes, I'm not the resident of this continent at this moment. However, nobody confirmed with me as person, as a candidate in the whole nomination process. You guessed. And that is not a appropriate way of determining where you register with.
I would just like to comment that if someone does not have the standing to run, then they probably don't have the standing to argue about the process by which people are nominated to run. Do you disagree? Okay.
I decided to run, and I follow the process. Doesn't mean that I have no right to complain the process when the process is not fully implemented or fully proper. It's the way of improving the process. It's not about who being the chair. It's the way to improve the process for the future nominations.
Any other further comments?
I guess there's a document that says if you're not a member of the region, then you don't qualify. And I would like that brought up, and then we can properly answer the question. I think it's a very small section of the guidelines. If just for the sake of clarity that we know where this is.
Yeah, I left it on my desk back there, sorry.
I think that would help. And then we can ask the question, and maybe to cut it short, let's have a definite answer from the complainant.
Fine. In the interests of time, while Ernest finds this document, can I have, would it be appropriate for Adam to come up and give us 2 minutes? Any objections?
2 minutes.
Well, that's in the interest of time. I'm not putting it, I'm not dropping Lou or anything.
Yes, I would object.
We are not yet at that stage.
We are stalling at this part of the election. We cannot possibly proceed to the next. Thank you.
I thought we have a very basic issue to look at now, and I would plead we should not rush away from looking at that issue before we go into voting, because whatever we do now becomes precedence. As our bylaw states, we should respect our bylaw and understand that precedence becomes integral to our processes. I want to confirm, does the guideline say anybody resident or not? Because as at the point of application, did the candidate or the applicant specify that, yes, I am resident in Africa? Because the issue of verification does not arise if there has been false declaration. So let us get the facts right. If absolutely the fact was properly declared, and it is so, I have no objections to having the candidate, the applicant included in the slate of candidates. We should finalize the slate before we begin to listen to candidates.
Fair enough, okay.
And if on the other hand, the guideline says that only residents are qualified, but on self-nomination there is a false declaration, I think we should also look at that and begin to look at how to fix our processes, because false declaration is not acceptable in our community. Thank you.
The declaration on Lou's application stated he was a resident of the Seychelles. On the screen at the moment, candidate eligibility: be a natural person residing in a country from the Afrinic service region. Would you like to continue, Sunday?
Thank you very much. So it's apparent that he is aware of this requirement before self-nominating himself.
And it was a self-nomination, yes.
Yes, which means that there was no accident of nomination. It was deliberate.
Deliberate,
and I
yes.
would want to frown at this type of action happening in our region, because if it happens to that being a PDP co-chair, it could happen to moving my IP blocks out of Africa.
I would self-defend on this point. Moving IP address, the co-chair of the policy working group has no power more than declare consensus on the floor, depend on the supportiveness of the floor. It does not have the rights to move IP address, either to assigning IP address or deciding who received the IP address to begin with. There is not much power in this chair seats to be saying that way, if Sean would agree with me. And when I being nominated myself, I do see that line saying to being a resident country in the African service region. And I do have company here and infrastructure in this region. And I believe as a person here, I don't think you need to have a resident permit to nominate yourself. So I sent in my application. And on the other hand, I heard quite a few debate in the community saying that requirement was not valid to begin with. As I heard from few people in the bylaw, there is no specific requirement for being residency in this region. So the guideline actually put a binding requirement other than bylaw itself. I'm not sure if that actually valid to begin with. But the whole argument or whole complaint I have today is not complaining I'm not being a policy chair, because I have no personal gain or personal interest in that. It's more of the way the nomination community handling the self-nominates or handling the candidates. I was not being contacted until I contact them. And I was not being asked the proper information until they assumed for me. And that is not a proper process in any kind of nomination process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lou. According to the rules and from your own admittance, I understand that you would probably be a very good PDWG co-chair. I've seen you at previous meetings. There's nothing against you from that point of view, but the rules are quite clear. You must be a natural person residing in a country from the Afrinic region. At this point, I can no longer entertain you standing for the PDWG co-chair. Thank you very much. Paulus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to raise two things. From the earlier conversation that we had, it seems that the problem premise was the wrong one, and that secondly, that the criteria is valid, it's very much valid, and it still disqualifies the candidate. So I would like to move that we stick to the slate of candidates that we had, because the valid reasons for disqualifying the candidate are quite plain.
Can I have my last sentence, please? It's not about value of the candidates. It's about the nomination process, as I repeated 3 times already. It's the nomination process which I think is broken. The nomination community should actively contact candidates and verify the information, and that's what the community is put on for. And if that's a simple job which the nomination community doesn't do, and why we need a nomination community to begin with. So I think there's a large improvement in this nomination process, and that is my whole point here. It's not about being a chair, as I've been repeated at least 3 times since my first speaking. So please don't take it wrong. It's the nomination process itself needs to be largely improved, and for the future nomination, I hope the nomination committee would be actively encouraging the contact candidates and make sure that everybody gets their chance, and without guessing everybody's background, not confirming with the candidates itself. So that would be improper.
Then as NOMCOM, I sincerely apologize. It does appear that the process, some of the processes are slightly broken, and we will certainly look at addressing that in the future.
Mark, you have nothing to apologize for. Your judgment was correct. He is not qualified. This is clear. We understand this, all right? So the NOMCOM acted properly. I think the issue here is that you don't like the way the rules work. If you don't like the way the rules work, you use the policy development process.
I like as rule works. I just don't like people guessing where I'm resident with.
He guessed correctly. What's the issue?
It's not about right or wrong, it's about the guessing. You should confirm with the candidates yourself.
This is what NOMCOMs do. He has confirmed with you that he guessed correctly. You admit that he guessed correctly.
No, he never confirmed with me.
Yes, he just did.
No, he never confirmed with me in the nomination process.
Can I have the microphone, Mark?
Go.
Can I speak? Can I reply to that?
Go ahead, Sunday, if you wish.
I asked if I can have the microphone. I'm following the process.
I'm next on the line.
Okay. I think the community has the ultimate right to look at its process, where it is broken, and to fix it. And we have seen clearly how broken it is, though it's been working for us, and we've not had somebody test it, whether it can break or not. All right, so I would say we have now seen how it's broken. We'll go back, we'll fix it. But for now, the NOMCOM has ruled that the candidate is not eligible. I move that the community uphold that, and we proceed with our elections. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sunday.
Can I speak last? Reply to what's previously being stated? So if what Bill said is valued, the non-com does not need to confirm any candidate's criteria, but can simply put on the results of the nomination candidates by guessing. So that's what the whole floor supporting about? I guess not. I'm just saying a process which is broken and need to be fixed. That's all I'm saying. And a process which need to be simply confirmed with the candidate himself about his own background and his own information. It's non-com's job to confirm with the candidate if candidate lies or in case of that. However, it's not non-com's responsibility without asking and just by simply guessing. And that is what I think is improper. And if Bill thinks any nomination committee would simply guessing all the candidates' background information without confirming with the candidates and publish the results without doing that, I don't know. Is that particular cultural way of that?
Thank you.
I don't
Thank
believe
you
that.
very much,
Thank you.
Lou. Can I ask you to sit down so that we can continue, please? Please sit down.
Okay.
Thank you. Can I go back to the candidate slate, please? It would appear that we only have a presentation from one person who is present. Adam, can I ask you to come up and explain to this great crowd as to why you should be a co-chair on the PDP working group? And you have 2 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Let me just this quickly. I'm sorry for all the confusion here. Lou, I think thanks for your constructive feedback, and I hope that we can work on the policy over time, and if the community would like to improve it to include people from the whole world. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay. Of course, Lou is a member of the PDWG because anybody who participates is a member. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I moved to Nairobi almost 2 years ago. I'm a former resident of New York, been involved in the technology industry for, I don't know, a while, 15 years, 20 years. First got started, in school, setting up computers, servers, stuff like that. Been the CTO of a number of different startups in New York. Now the CTO of a startup in Nairobi, focused on public cloud infrastructure. Very interested now, after getting more involved with Afrinic, in getting policy and policy improvements through the door so that we can all have a better internet. One thing I've noticed is things don't work as well here as they do in the States. For instance, if I'm trying to get to my server from South Africa, it all goes through Europe. If I want to get content from anywhere, it all goes to Europe or the States. If I want to interact with the internet, I'm constantly going through submarine cables, and I want to change all that. I want to get the policies in place and people motivated to move content onto the continent, to get routes fixed, because all of us need to work together to get that done. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is through the Policy Development Working Group. It's a major issue, something I'd like to fix, something I'd like to address. That's really the reason that I want to be the co-chair, because I want to help get this feedback through and embrace people that are not on the RDP list or any of the other lists and get them giving feedback, getting international policies into the door, and help everybody really get these policies through and get consensus on the policies that people like and get rid of the policies that people don't like. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Would anyone in the community in the room at the moment like to talk on behalf of any of the other 4 people on the list? I see no hands. We work out who will be the co-chair by the simple showing of hands. So I'm going to call out a name. I'm going to put up a hand. And do we have any... Oh, yes, our lady from Ripe. Can you come up and join me here quickly? Or you can stand there if you want. Okay, so looking at the audience, can I see hands for Meshach? Can I see hands for Ghislaine? Can I see hands for Hago? Can I see hands for Didier? Can I see hands for Adam? I think it's very clear. Thank you very much for your help. Adam, I think congratulations are in order. Next co-chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. And on that note, all right, thank you very much, and congratulations, Adam. Looking forward to working with you. Okay, so can we have the slide brought back? Do we have Jean Rouvet available yet? Okay, if he's not here, then we'll move to the next. Okay, I think I should release Mark. Thank you very much, Mark. Okay, so we have not heard anything from Jean Rivet yet, so we'll just move to the open mic session. This is the session where we would like anybody to discuss any issue relating to either all what has been said in this event relating to policy development and any other thing that was that we would like us to discuss outside of this event. So the floor is open. Thank you. Yeah. Alan.
Hi, this is Alan Barrett. Could we please discuss the WHOIS proposal, even though Jean Robert is not here? It is on the agenda. It has been on the mailing list for long enough. I would ask that perhaps somebody else can summarize it and we can discuss it.
Okay, that's a very good suggestion. Do we think, does the community think we should discuss this? Because normally the author presents the proposal, and considering that actually that particular policy was placed on the agenda without actually knowing that we were going to spend that much time on the academic policy anyway. So do we go ahead with just quickly giving a brief summary of the proposal? Yeah.
Yes, I'm in support of Alan's suggestion. Okay. There is no reason why we shouldn't discuss the policy if it's on the agenda.
Okay, Paulos, please.
Precedent in the past is that we have done this, so yes, I agree also.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Based on that, I'm gonna just quickly present the policy proposal from Jean Rivet. It has been sent to the list before. It was published on the 15th of May. And of course, the author is Jean Rivet. That is the URL for the current version of the policy proposal. The proposal provides emphasis. This proposal emphasizes the inaccuracy of Afrinic WIS database. The proposal sets a process that ensures that Afrinic WIS database is up to date. Afrinic staff should conduct a WIS database information validation once a year or at the renewal of resources. IP resources be claimed back from the member if no response was received after 1 year of commencing the validation process of the member. By the way, I won't be reading all this. I'm sure we've all seen this policy proposal before, so I'm just going to perhaps just be skipping. So summary of the problem being addressed is what you can see on the screen. And this is the continuation of the summary of the problem that is being addressed. The goal of the proposal is setting a process towards ensuring that the database of Afrinic, the WIS database of Afrinic is updated. Yeah, so there was a WIS policy cleanup proposal that was earlier made. I think it was during Afrinic 18, if I'm correct, which was actually withdrawn after some consideration and discussion from staff, between staff and the community. So the person, who also happens to be Jean Rivet, who wrote that policy, withdrew that policy, and that is actually why we have this particular policy named as if it was a new policy, and that's why the extension is named the way it was named. So that reference that is there, the draft 02, is one of the policy proposal that he made earlier, which was withdrawn. So the summary of how this proposal addresses the problem. So that's the summary. The proposal itself. So this is the section that states what is to be done, how is it to be done. So it says the first process is the cleanup. Under the cleanup, it says the general database cleanup. At the ratification of this proposal, Afrinic staff will conduct a first cleanup by asking all POC present, except those who received their objects in less than a year, to confirm their POC information. We leave it to Afrinic staff. We leave it to Afrinic staff discretion, I guess, to use any communication tool they find useful for this action. Another cleanup, after the first cleanup, Afrinic will conduct a cleanup once a year, and it's also at the Afrinic discretion to determine the such period. At the request of additional resources or services, Afrinic staff will ask the organization to update its records. If a change is requested by another policy, in case another Afrinic policy made mandatory a change or introduce another object, the object owner is required to make this update. And these are the steps that the object owner is required to do. Afrinic staff will ask